Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on SEG fabrics for Lightboxes. My name is Michael Ryan from FESPA, and thank you to our partners today for EFKA, TTS and Durst for this webinar on a very, very important topic. Something which is very important to the FESPA community, the display markets, the graphics, the environment that we all live in for exhibitions, events, retail outlets as well. Lightboxes are very much a daily part of your life. So we're here really to discuss the industry and talk about the challenges of the industry. So you can see in this first image the wrong combination. So we're looking here at the wrong combination of fabric frame and LED. So we're going to discuss with the team here today the challenges, the questions, the experience. So this presentation is live. Goedemiddag from Holland. So this presentation is live. We have moderators behind the scenes, so please do join the conversation. Please do ask any questions in the chat. We will try to answer as many questions as we can do throughout the event, but there are moderators from EFKA, Durst and Texo Trade Services who can answer you directly during the conversation. There will be some polls, so this is interactive, so any questions you have, please put them in the chat. But for the polls, we have 3 polls coming, so please join us and we'll share the insights throughout the event. First of all, I'm delighted to be joined by experts in the industry. We have Brendy here from Texo Trade Services, Harold from EFKA and Hans from Durst. Welcome to the discussion.
Thank you.
Brendy,
Thank you.
Tell us more about Texo Trade Services.
I am Brendy Versluis. I'm product manager at TTS and I'm responsible for the textiles and finishing assortment. TTS is located in the Netherlands, nearby Rotterdam, and we have branches in Germany, France, the UK and Italy as well. And we are market leader in Europe in digital printable textiles for the visual communication.
Hans Durst, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon from my side. My name is Hans van der Horst, almost 20-year experience in large format graphic printing industry. Currently active in the Dutch market as account manager for Durst Benelux, so looking after existing and new customers. And with Durst it's all about customized solution. Nothing is standard, which makes it also very fun and nice industry to work in. A little bit about Durst, one of the leading manufacturers for digital printing and production technologies. Of course, Italian-based company in Tyrol, which is our heritage. And since next year it will be 90 years that we are active with different solutions for different industry segments. Of course, large format graphic printing, ceramics, glass printing, label printing, the packaging industry as well. And of course, textile printing with a clear focus on inkjet and also the UV and water-based inks.
Fantastic. Welcome to the discussion. And Harold, EFKA?
Yeah, hi.
Tell us a little bit more about EFKA.
Yeah, my name is Harold Kleine. At EFKA I'm responsible for the export turnover. At EFKA we are a specialist in textile frames. And to produce these frames we have stock. We have 350 kilometers of profiles in stock in 3 colors, in white, silver and black. So we produce textile frames in every shape and in every size. And what we see in the last couple of years that these frames are more and more illuminated. So we offer 2 types of illumination. That is edge lit, so you have the LEDs on the bottom and on the top, or backlit that you have them on the back wall.
Fantastic. We're here to talk about Lightboxes. So let's kick off the discussion. What customers do you have, Harold?
Our customers are only resellers, mainly large format printers, sign makers, stand and interior builders, and we take care of the frame and our customers, they take care of the print, so the combination, the total product.
Fantastic. So we are here, so we're going to start with the first poll, so welcome to the webinar. The first poll is starting right now, so please join us. What type of company do you represent? Carrying on the conversation, Harold, where did the products end up?
Yeah, in the past these products were only used for advertising, but we see more and more that it is used for interior decor as well. By interior decor it's quite often used in combination with acoustic material behind the print and in the frame. And our customers, they sell these products mainly to shops Further, you see it on airports, you see it a lot in offices, and especially on events as well. And in the last couple of years, a lot of our customers, they do the business to consumer market. So if you look at the consumers, sometimes you see them at home as well.
As we await for those poll results to come through, the industry is so creative. Everything starts with an image. Brendy, talk to me more about the printing technologies on the fabrics.
Well, you can print with UV, latex, solvent or sublimation. But we don't recommend latex or solvent because the color intensity that it creates on the Lightbox is not good enough. So we recommend to use UV printing or sublimation printing to create the best color effects. And with UV, you can print on an uncoated fabric, which will give a result that may not be as good when you print on a coated fabric, because then the color intensity is way more stronger and deeper. And with sublimation, you print on the uncoated fabric, because otherwise sublimation will not work, of course. But there might be a coating on the back of the fabric so that there will be better light diffusion. You can print direct or transfer and on knitted or woven fabric.
Fantastic. Thank you for your responses in the poll. What type of company do you represent? The results are 50% of you are from the large format print company, 7% from sign making, and a really important industry is stand building. So 17% are joining us from the stand building community as well. One thing for FESPA, I'm getting ready for FESPA, so stand building is in our heads right now. And interesting enough, we've got some people coming from the office and the project fitters, so those workspace interiors. So thank you for joining us all from those areas of the business. Harold, I mentioned before, visually it's important. We love the creativity. I love the impact of Lightboxes in a visual setting, wherever that is. What mistakes have you seen?
You can see a lot of mistakes. Maybe you can see it on the picture as well. What is important to know, the combination between the print and the Lightbox. In this case, you have a good Lightbox, but the combination with large surfaces of plain colors does not work by edge-lit. And you see a lot of shadow spots in the Lightbox. So if you use this Lightbox with a very colorful print, you don't have any problems. And if you want to use it with this print, we would advise to use backlit in this case. The main advantage for edge-lit is that you can send it out flat packed and that you can easily mount it on the place, for example, on an exhibition. But if you want to be sure, you never know what kind of print will be in the frame in future. If you want to be sure of a successful combination, backlit is the best option.
And to you might recognise there's situations from the audience. You might recognise situations that are not meeting the expectations. So please do share any comments in the chat regarding the technologies and around Lightboxes. We've spoken a little bit about visuals and lighting. Fabric is incredibly important. You mentioned woven and knitted. Can you explain the differences, please?
Well, most textiles used for the soft signage are knitted fabrics, like flag or display or a blackback. And knitted fabrics provide a bit of mechanical stretch, how we call it, and they can be cut with a knife or cold cut without fraying. And the stretch and the cold cutting are really big advantages that printers appreciate in SEG frames. And woven fabric are the most logical choice for Lightbox applications, as knitted fabrics tend to be more open and have pinholes. As you can see in the photo as well, you can see all the LEDs shining through. This can be solved by using a heavier and denser knitted fabric. However, woven fabrics are generally more closed and have less pinholes, making them the preferred choice for backlit. Disadvantages of a woven fabric is that they fray when cold cut. This can be solved by laser cutting or heat cutting, or as shown in the photo, you can overlock it with strip as well when cold cutting.
I've learned something new today. Thank you. Poll number 2. to the audience. So, what printing technologies do you most commonly use on your fabric for backlit applications? That poll is now live now, so please respond. While we wait for the responses to come in, Hans, in terms of the selection of machinery, why UV inkjet, why dye-sub?
Yeah, as already explained, touched upon by Brandy, two of the most common technologies in printing for textile is UV and sublimation. Both have advantages and of course disadvantages really depending on the application and the material. When we zoom in on UV printing, UV inks are cured with UV light, so that makes them a very quick process, instant ready also to be further processed in the workflow. Another advantage is with UV, it can cover a wide range of media, so it's a very versatile technology with good characteristics. There's no heat used for curing, which also prevents thermal shock to the media or deforming of the material while it's being printed or cured. In general with UV there's a very stable color output on the machines, which also simplifies the color profiling process, which is really an advantage to reach your consistency in your production. And of course it's specifically for the backlit application, it's a very stable printing process. While there are some disadvantages as well. It can have some strong odor, so that's more with low ventilated rooms or in production environments it can be less comfortable. There's always a pre-treatment or a coating is required to really secure a good adhesion of the ink. And we will come back later, as also touched upon by Brandy. If you have a good adhesion, at least if you transport the material, if you fold it, there is always a risk with a coating on top that also the printed image can crack with this typical white cracking of UV inks. Sublimation, of course, a technique where the inks turn into a gas shape and are really penetrated into the textile, which is usually a polyester-based material, which is required for this technology. It has an outstanding color vividness, color intensity that's unknown for this technology. Of course, there's no odor, no smell, which is more comfortable also in a production environment. And of course, you can fold fabrics without any damage. So that makes it very convenient to ship it as a small package to your customers.
Fantastic. Yeah.
For the disadvantages, it's, let's say, a more difficult or complicated process. There's always heat involved. There's more steps involved to fix the inks as well. And depending on the type of textile or material, there can be some deforming can happen in the process with shrinking and stretch.
And what I'm really like, if you think about the industry, we've come a long way, especially in even in the last 5 years, the technologies have come a long way. So you can remember those production environments from 5-10 years ago, but thanks to the technologies, the innovations that are coming out, then it's really makes those retail spaces, those environments where the finished product is used, very, very comfortable environments to be in.
Fully agree. And we also better understand what factors impact during the production, which impacts the end result. And as you said, with the development of the technology, we have more and more control and understanding of the factors and what causes these challenges. So that definitely helps.
And our audience agrees. So in terms of the printing technologies, 39% of our audience is using UV and 61% for dye-sub from the technologies there. So thank you very much for poll number 2. Harold, printing technologies. Does the printing technology have any influence on the choice of Lightbox?
No, it's not the printing technology, but it is more the fabric. Maybe you can show the picture. If you see on the picture, yeah, that's the right one. Here you see a picture with a fabric with an open structure. And an open structure is perfectly when you have a non-laminated textile frame with, for example, acoustic material inside. But if you use it in combination with LED, then you will see the LED spots. So never use a combination like this for a Lightbox.
Excellent. And onto applications and techniques, and a common question that I hear a lot from the audiences is in terms of direct to fabric. Brendy, from the TTS perspective, in terms of why dye sub and not direct to transfer?
Well, both options are possible. And with transfer paper, you need a high ink load to get a good color intensity. Therefore, you would need to use a heavier and fast-drying transfer paper to ensure a stable and controlled printing process. But to achieve the deep and vibrant colors, and that they also stay vibrant with the backlight on, you need to get the ink deeper into the fabric. And this can be easier achieved with direct dye sub printing. So both options are possible, and when combined with the right fabric, both techniques produce beautiful, perfect light boxes.
And the image we're seeing now on the screen?
Well, that is when you have direct sublimation. That is when the ink is not dried well enough. So that is a difficult process, or a challenge, let's call it like that, with direct. That the ink doesn't have the time to dry good enough. So you will have that the ink will stamp when it's rolled up in the machine. And that is what you want to avoid, of course, ink stamping. So because in Lightbox, the smallest defects are possible, are visible. And another challenge with dye sub is, both and direct and transfer is ink migration. And this is an unpredictable phenomenon, and it can ruin the print. Coated textiles are generally more sensitive to ink migration because the coating acts as a catalyst for the ink. But also, as you can see on the photo, the PVC strip can also act as a catalyst. So it depends on the ink, the fixation of the ink and the strip, and how the fabric is stored. And a long-term test with the fabric and the strip on it is important to avoid these kinds of disappointments.
And we're here today, really, collaboration. We're seeing live collaboration within the industry. Hans, how do you ensure, and how do the conversations, because you've got challenges in the industry about shrinkage, ink migration, color deviation, as we've covered as well. Tell us more about the collaboration between Durst and the likes of TTS.
Yeah, especially for a machine manufacturer, the collaboration with a media supplier like TTS is key critical, very essential for us. At Durst, we thoroughly test different materials, which is important really to analyze the characteristics. How does it behave in the machine? Understanding the coating, the pre-treatment on the material, what's the impact, the structure of the material, very important, with stretch, and shrinkage characteristics, and of course how do they react on our inks as well in the machine, and how does it respond to the full process of printing. Of course it helps to recognize these problems, to validate, as said before, ink migration, bending effect, shrinkage, spraying effect. These are all very typical phenomena with dye sublimation printing that can happen in print. And of course, it's critical in an early stage to find the right solution for all our customers.
And I'm encouraged from FESPA's side, I'm encouraged to see this collaboration between the suppliers, because the biggest impact for a customer of yours is in production. It's when those machines are not working. It's when they have the challenges of waste, and that's something we want to avoid. So it's really great to see that you're collaborating together so that you can minimize these production nightmares. And I would call them a production nightmare when it comes to the print industry. Yeah. But thank you very much from our side to you guys in terms of just having these collaborations and that you're all working together as well. Carrying on with it's clear that there are incredible advantage for having both dye sub, textile printing, direct to fabric, direct to transfer. Hans, tell me more about the fixation process, because in terms of the internal and the external calendars, so what's the choices behind that? Because we're going to be looking at speed, you're going to be looking at flexibility, you're going to be looking at cost. So tell us more about the calendars in the industry.
Interesting aspect, specifically for the sublimation process. There's two options. Of course, to cure, to fix the ink, there's always heat required. It can be done inline or it can be done externally. Two methods, usually done externally with calendars from Monty or Cleaverick. These are two well-known brands and very stable performing machines. But both methods have their own specific requirements, which has to be adapted to the product itself or to the final application, and of course also the media that's applied. When zooming in deeper on inline fixation, of course it's from a Durst perspective, it's combined in one machine, printing, fixing and curing. Fast, very efficient process, and the material comes, let's say, process ready out of the machine. There's no additional step required in curing. It goes seamlessly into each other. All the steps, it requires less space in the production environment. And of course there's a consistency in the output, which I think it's critical for all our customers. Some disadvantages as well, especially when you have a lot of media changes. Yep. It's less efficient because it's fully in line, so there's a lot of media changes, then it's more beneficial to run it on an external calendar machine. Of course, it's a separate engine, it's a more versatile process, and let's say in the end, one of the versatility with a lot of media changes is definitely a benefit. It's very consistent in the heat as well and in the output. On the other hand, of course, it requires more space in a production environment or production room, and of course, it's, let's say, higher operational cost.
And not every company has that luxury, do they?
Correct. Yeah. So just to summarize, it really depends on the speed you need, the flexibility, the amount of material changes you have in your production, which really determines what is the best fit.
Thank you very much. Brendy, what other factors should we consider?
Our customers appreciate the foldability of the fabric and the ability to ship the print folded in a box instead of rolled on a tube. So one of the key success factors for the silicon etch graphic is efficient transport cost, as you use a partial surface instead of a logistic shipping it overside in tubes. The risk is that when you ship it folded, then it will create wrinkles or creases, and in Lightbox everything is visible, of course. Instead, when you have just the front lid, maybe not so much is visible. But it is possible depending on the fabric and printing technique and ink. With UV, you have to be careful when you fold it not to crack the ink. And with sublimation, you need to be aware of the ink migration, as earlier said as well. And you may need to fold it in a protective paper.
When we talk about the common issues, Hans, so for example, when you look at your customers, when you look at the printer, I hear spray quite a lot. I hear the word spray quite a lot. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. What we see in the market quite frequently is some distortions with textile, especially with sublimation printing, as mentioned before. There's heat required, which has different challenges with regards to stretch and to shrinkage of the material. Of course, shrinkage is more reduced to that the material with high temperatures, the stretch is more with high temperatures, that it's expanding. Yeah. Shrink is more that it reduces in size, usually after curing, when it's cooling down the material, and that it gets back in the original size or dimension of the material. It's important to prevent, it's important to choose the right settings on the machine, on the engine. Temperature, time settings are key critical for this whole process. And we are proud in the collaboration we have with a media supplier like TTS, that we are able to control and to monitor these issues at a very early stage to secure a seamless and most efficient production for this process, just to avoid these issues and problems for customers.
Well, thank you. You've enlightened me today. Thank you very much. Harold, frames. Frame plays an incredibly crucial role. It's what we see everywhere. It's that wow impact. I love seeing the impact of backlit displays. I love seeing them in a consumer environment. EFKA, you support. How do you support people to make the right choices? You have a unique approach to this. So I'd like to know a little bit more about the EFKA story and how you really support your customers.
Yeah. Yeah, what is important for us, we want to make it as simple as possible for our customers to sell these products. So we have an online configurator. So our customers, they have a login, and this configurator has an advice function. So it is easy to find the right frame directly on the internet. But if you have a more complex project, you can always call the experts of our sales insights, and they can help, and together we find the right solution for this project. And further, what we do to help our customers, we offer trainings. It is also possible to do it by the customers itself, because for us it is important that they give the right advice to the end users. Because if the end user is happy, our customer is happy, and we are happy.
Very good. Do you see any mistakes that people make?
Yeah, there are a lot of mistakes, and that is what you saw on the picture before, of course, with shadow spots, for example. And that is a question of the wrong combination then. Eh?
And any other factors when you're considering lightbox selection?
Yeah, by lightbox selection, it is also important to know where the socket is. For example, if you want to place a lightbox in front of the socket, it makes no sense to put the cable through the frame. Then we can better put it, we leave it internally, or we put it through the back wall. And further, what is important, if you have the socket, let's say 1 meter behind the light box, then you need to know the color of the wall. If you have a white wall, you can better make the combination with a white cable, of course. So we offer a white cable, a black cable, so customers can decide the cable color, the length of the cable. And further, it's important to know where you place the light box. If it's for example, in a restaurant where people are dining next to the light box, or if it's in an office. If you don't have a dimming function, you need sunglasses if you are behind the light box. So we offer a dimming function and even tunable white, so you can change or you can mix the color of white.
It never occurred to me though we would have to choose the different. You have a black and white cord. That's something which I never knew was possible.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. But in the environment, you know, we've all been to the airports, we've all been to restaurants, big venues, etc. So it's great to see the introduction of light boxes in every environment. And you guys are like me, so you live this industry. Like our audience is looking in as well. We live it. So every time you see a graphic, you're like, oh wow, it's something that happens. It's encouraging to come together. When you look, we've got some examples coming up of some common mistakes. So in terms of the applications, in terms of the environments, during the use, what are you seeing?
Yeah, quite often when I'm on a business trip, for example, on an exhibition, I always look at the light boxes. And in this case, you see some examples. What you see here is, for example, that they forgot to put a block-out fabric in the light box. So you see the color of the wall, the back wall, through the light box. So you can avoid this with using a black block-out fabric. What is also important by a block-out fabric, that you put the wrong side, the right side on the inside, of course. So always use the white side on the inside for the reflection of the color. And what you see here is a mix of different kind of light boxes. So you should also avoid to have different manufacturers or different production batches. You see a difference in color here, and that is the same if you use, for example, a light box with edge lids in one room. Then you always need to take care that the dimensions are exactly the same. Otherwise, you have another. Otherwise, you will definitely see the difference.
And I'm an amateur, and I can already see what's wrong with this photograph.
Yeah, and that happens quite often, that they simply forget to put the silicon edge in.
It's incredible.
So sometimes they only put on the top side, so then it hangs in front of the light box.
But we've all seen people putting graphics in. Like I've walked past a bank, and I'm seeing them trying to put squeegee, and I'm like, this is the job of your customer, of your printer audience, to take that stress away, because you can't expect the people who are working in that shop or that retail environment to install the graphics.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's quite simple. So with a small instructions from our customer side, it will help the end user.
We're lucky at FESPA. We have the experts from EFKA to help us on site of the exhibition. So thank you.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't trust myself to put some graphics up. You've probably seen me in action as well. And if we move to the next slide.
Yeah, here you see what happens quite often as well. They put the wrong side in the groove, so they first put the fabric in instead of the silicon edge.
Yeah. Well, these are certainly not. These are not the worst pictures you've seen, are they?
No, definitely not.
Let's have a look at those later on. So share in the post. Share your worst pictures of what you've seen.
Yeah.
So we've discussed some common issues. So we're going to come to the third poll, which is which of these 7 problems do you recognise the most? So please, the poll is now live. So we've discussed some challenges, problems there. So please do let us know. Harold, also, is price a factor?
It is always important to know the budget, of course. If you know the budget and if you know if a customer is critical, it is always important, is it about price or is it about the quality of the Lightbox? What we quite often see with offers as well, that we make an offer and sometimes we hear, hey, what is the reason why you are more expensive than a competitor or a colleague in the market? And if I get all the information, quite often I see that there is too less light in the LED box. So they compare, what do you say in England? Apples to oranges, I think. Yeah. So that is always important to avoid that, and also to have the right product for the end user.
Fantastic. So we're seeing now, thank you for sharing your problems and recognizing those. So it's going from ink migration to distortion in fabric. So it's looking like 50% is that the distortion in fabric is now 60%. So that's the stretch and the shrinkage dimensions in terms of that. Also shadowing, I think, which comes into it. That's the second in the challenge. So it's shadowing, which is coming up there. We've heard from 3 areas. So we've heard from the fabrics, we've heard from the frames with EFKA, we've heard also from Durst, from the printing technology. So we now have a better understanding. So we're now going to move on to a video from Durst.
Absolutely.
With commentary from Hans.
Yeah. This video is perfect to show some insights on how a backlit is produced and printed. And it's really from pixel to output. So as you see here, the in-house developed Durst workflow is to prepare the print files, the right in positioning, of course selecting the right color profile in combination with the media, to secure, of course, the consistency in and during production, most likely for the output. So the media is loaded into the engine, which is the Polaris stretch material from TTS, which is very stable. We have some very good results, especially when it comes to backlit applications. The P5 text engine, as mentioned before, is fully in line. What you see here is the backside of the machine with the full infrared drying, the heating plates. The cover is closing to secure a good consistency of heat with this contactless fixation. When we use a backlight print modus, we always select a higher ink amount that we print, also for the right vividness and the color intensity, and the advanced. So what you see here is an advanced roll-to-roll system with some benefits in order to secure the right tension on the material while printing, just to make sure it's completely flat when it's being printed. Of course, it's inline, so it's after printing, it's directly the inks are dried and also cured, so it comes completely ready, instant ready out of the machine. As you can see, typically here at the rewind, it has this typical vivid, very intense sublimation colors. So this is the rubbing test to really see and secure it has the right adhesion. Of course, also was mentioned before when shipping. If I'm right, Harold,
is that done with every material then as well? You just you go through that process.
Yeah. If I'm right, Harold, this is the EFKA Lightbox 60 LED with
Yes, our most sold Lightbox. That's true.
Yeah, the one with the backlighting behind on the back wall.
Yeah, so that avoids shadow spots. You see it here in the picture.
So this really helps to highlight the intensity of this printing technology. Yeah, so this is the end product. Happy customers.
Very good. And I've seen the new campaign made in Durst.
Correct. Yeah, from pixel to output, everything in-house.
And a stunning part of the world. I had the pleasure of going past Brixham the other day, so it's a stunning part of the world. So
we call it a small little company from Tyrol. Yeah.
Very good. It's stunning. Yeah. Harold, it always baffles me. Like it's great to see how everything comes together, but I'm still baffled and I'm still confused why customers continue to assemble their own light boxes.
Yeah, and quite often they make mistakes that you can avoid, of course. So what we see quite often, that they make light boxes with edge lids, so LEDs on the bottom and on the top of the light box with a too large distance. And then you will see a shadow spot in the middle, of course. And it's the same with backlit. If you put the LEDs too far away from each other, then you will see LED spots or shadow spots between the LED strips. And further, what happens as well, if the print is too close to the LEDs, that you see the LED spots through the print.
Very good. In addition, we've touched on the technical elements. Let's get into the production room. Let's get into those practical challenges. Brendy, is there anything that you're seeing on the production floor?
Well, we often get questions about the coating. And the coating on textiles is usually or water-based or polyurethane, PU, or PA, polyacrylic coating. And sometimes it's a single layer of coating, sometimes it's several layers that are applied depending on the purpose of the fabric. And the coating can be a print coating for UV latex or solvent inks, and then you print on the coating. Or the coating can be on the back of the fabric to improve light diffusion or to make it a blockout. And then you print on the uncoated side for sublimation, of course. Sometimes we get questions about which side is the print side. That you can all see on our website and the technical data sheet which you can download. And another question concerns the storage of our textiles. How do we store it? Well, textiles must be stored in a dry place, and it's important to allow a roll to adjust to room temperature. So it must be at least for 24 hours out of the storage at the printer, because otherwise it's too cold, and that will mix up the results, of course.
It sounds just like me.
You need to be 24 hours. Yeah.
And Hans from Durst as well, in terms of what are you seeing from the production floor?
Well, we see a rising awareness on sustainability. It's becoming more and more key critical in the whole production process with customers. So of course with the P5 Tex ISO we have the inline fixation approach and system, which is very beneficial and very reduced in ink consumption. If we have the machine without the inline fixation, it even consumes less energy, which is becoming more of a factor in the total operational cost for companies in large format printing. Especially when you compare it to offline calendaring with the Monty or the Cleaverick engines. It takes longer for those engines to warm up, to be ready for production as well. Yeah, higher energy consumption is automatically connected to those requirements. And it makes the inline fixation, the all-in-one system, more efficient, not only in use, in the number of steps, but also in the energy consumption. And of course, the less steps, the less operational cost, which makes it more enable companies to work in a more sustainable way.
Very good, thank you. Brendy, a question from me which I thought of this morning is, how do you recognize a bad textile?
Well, that's difficult to recognize it because you don't see it on the white roll itself. It comes when you print a roll. When you start printing, then you can see if there's a defect or not, or sometimes when you start calendaring, or even sometimes when you put it in the frame. But just by looking at the roll itself, you will not see if it's good or a bad quality. So you really need to print it.
Thank you. It's great to see we've got attendees joining the webinar from Poland, from the UK, from Greece, from Australia. I think Graham, maybe from FESPA, our technical expert, may be on the line as well. So let's get him in the audience next. Let's get him in the webinar next time. We've touched on sustainability. Sustainability is incredibly important for not just your customers, but the customers of your customers. There are regulations coming in from the EU. It's going to get tougher. It's not going to get easier. And at FESPA, we're preparing sustainability guides. We're looking at doing some greenwashing information as well so that we can share that information with the community as well. Light boxes, they are a sustainable option. Okay, the frame is pretty much permanent. You can change the graphic easily. That makes it a sustainable solution as well. Hans, what is the sustainability options from Durst?
Yeah, actually, as we touched upon before, it's more about the energy consumption, where companies are getting more key critical as part of their full production process, and of course to more control operational costs for. So that is becoming more of a key deciding factor for companies on how to invest and where they invest. So more conscious, more aware of the sustainability and environment.
And Harold, sustainability from EFKA?
Yeah, we only produce aluminium frames, of course, and aluminium is a product you can recycle. Further, what we do, we collect all the waste we have during the production. So if we produce frames, you always have some rest part, and we collect that, and that will be recycled as well. And very good for you to know, Michael. We come to FESPA. You should definitely visit our booth, because we will introduce a 100% recycled frame over there.
TTS, Brendy?
TTS, well, we are already working.
And you had some great launches at FESPA last year. You had that new product in
the solar.
The solar.
The solar, yeah, that is PVC free, an alternative for if you are a PVC producer or consumer. Then that's an alternative for it. But we also have textiles which are made from 100% recycled polyester. But we also see that the chemical recycling part is getting much more evolved, so that is possible. We can also do mechanical recycling, so that it will be chopped and used into furniture or boxing balls or stuff like that. So that is already in place and getting much bigger. And proud to say, we already can have in place the recycling of the PVC strip. So that is completely circular at the moment.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Harold, Lightboxes, are they delivered ready? Will they be ready when they're in Berlin?
Yeah, not always. It's like this. It always depends on the distance from our production location. So especially in the countries directly near to the Netherlands, we send everything cut to size. But if we go further, then sometimes the transport costs are higher than the frame, especially if you have a non-illuminated frame in a small size. And for that reason, a lot of our customers in countries further away, they buy bars in 615, they buy the components, and they cut the bars themselves. So they produce for the local market the frames.
Very good. And besides the frame, Brendy, textile plays an incredibly important role for the appearance, the quality. Which textile materials get the best results?
Well, it depends on the printing technique. What's available at the printer but both UV and sublimation printing can be used to create beautiful visuals in lightboxes. For UV, we offer various woven coated fabrics such as pearl or mercury, and we offer a knitted coated fabric that's called Lightbox Soft Knitted, and they are all available up to 5 meters. And for sublimation, we have Polaris Stretch, as we saw in the video, and which is perfect for direct dye sublimation. And Polaris Stretch is a woven fabric that stretches in both directions and doesn't have a coating, but its very tight weave gives a perfect light diffusion. And we also have a Saturn Supreme, that's a heavy knitted lightbox fabric without a coating as well, and Ultimis, especially for sublimation transfer. And most of the textiles in our range, as earlier said, are also available in a recycled version.
Fantastic. We're on schedule, which is good news. So let's turn to some of the questions from the audience. Harold, question for EFKA. How do we ensure the illumination meet EU electrical safety standards with so many systems being supplied from Asia?
Yeah, that is important. So every lightbox we produce by us, we have a CE certification. So we test everything at our production hall, and before it leaves the factory, we put in the sticker with the CE certification, so that the customer is knows that the product is produced according to the right rules. And
another question. Graham is interested to know the panel's view on colour management techniques that lead to the best colour consistency.
Yeah, good question. We have different tools available also in the workflow. Of course, it's used in the standard way of creating color profiles. It's usually done with spectrophotometers, with Barbieri. But we have different tools in the Durst workflow to really secure that, because we see as well that creating a profile for a dye sublimation type of ink is different compared to the UV inks. They have different characteristics, and it requires a different way of measuring to secure the correct profiles.
Thank you very much. And Harold, a question that I thought of on my journey over here was the digital signage is everywhere. When you look at those LED screens, etc., is there going to be a combination that we can see in the future? What's the EFKA view?
Oh, there will be definitely a market for both. So if you see a LED screen, it is you have more focus for a LED screen, of course. But if you have a room with only LED screens, it might be a little bit overwhelming. So I think there will be a market for both. And what we quite often do as well, that we produce a textile frame with an inlay for a LED screen, for example. So the combination is there as well.
Very good. We're unfortunately out of time. But thank you for joining the webinar. I hope this has been interesting with lots of tips and advice. Thank you very much for joining the discussion. Let's continue the discussion. And Hans, Harold, Brandy, I will see you in May at FESPA. We will meet in person live at the event. An event filled with light boxes, with lots of display solutions as well. But there's incredible amount of questions coming in. So thank you guys for putting on this event. This webinar will be available on demand. So please tune in later on. We will answer as many questions as we can. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Durst. Thank you, Texo Trade Services. TTS. Sorry, I'm old in the game, so I remember Texo Trade Services. So thank you to TTS, and thank you as always to EFKA. There will be a survey, so please, after following the event, so please give your feedback on the event. Talk to us about future topics. Thank you much for joining, and we will see you in May in Berlin, live at the FESPA show.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.